So it's lesson 29, which is God is in everything I see. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this before we start reading it. So in lesson 29, God is in everything I see, it says, it explains why nothing is separate by itself or of itself. So this is the thing I was talking also earlier, I was talking about special relationships. So nothing, it explains why nothing is separate. So if God is in everything I see, there's never a stop with anything. So God is equally in the cup, God is equally in the camera, God is equally in you, God is equally in the plant. So that means that then there's no need for an ego function. There's no need for an ego to label the chair is special and everything else is less important. So when all ego projections and identification goes, then actually it's experienced. There's no you, and God is in everything, equally everywhere. Yes? So it explains, the lesson also says, and it explains why nothing you see means anything. God is in everything, so nothing you see means anything. Well, if there's a you that gives meaning to something, then you live in the world of illusions, you see. So it explains why nothing you see, explains why your ego doesn't see anything. When your ego sees, you're seeing illusions. So when your ego sees, your ego is automatically giving meaning to different things. Like, this chair is better than that chair, you see. Or that plant is nicer than the pillow. So your ego is giving special meaning to everything, and so you're now in the world of illusions and separation. And there's a you that is identifying and creating separation in everything. Look on all things with love, appreciation and open-mindedness. You do not see them as they are now. So that's the way to get out of the ego's projection of meaning and separation. So you look on all things with love, equal love, I'd say, and because at the moment when you don't look on everything equally with love, then you're looking through the filters of the ego in the world of illusion and separation. But if you can start to say, I love this mug of tea as much as this chair, as much as you, equally, then your ego will start to disappear. See, so that the love. But then the thing is, there's no separation. You know, I love this chair equally as I love you. It's not like I love you more than this chair. See, because God is in the chair equally as it. So if I have special love, like I love you the most, then it's different, you see. Then the ego can exist. Oh, that's my special love, but I don't, these things, I'm cut off from love, you see. Because I'm not with that person, I just have a chair with me right now, so I feel like a disconnection. So when vision has shown you the holiness that lights up the world, you will understand today's idea perfectly. So it says here vision instead of perception. When vision has shown you the holiness that lights up the world. So in the spiritual states of beingness, i.e. holiness, atonement, to be at one, to be without separation. Holiness means there's no me and you, no separation. Everything is one. There's no difference between anything. That's the holiness. And in the holiness, the world is lighted up. So when you have those spiritual experiences, it's like everything is in equal technicolor. And there's no you there. It's like there's a oneness and a presence. And the experience is timeless. So everyone has had those experiences. That's without the ego's separation and the projected meaning that it filters on into the world. So that's a practical lesson, and we'll quickly read it together and then we'll apply it. So okay, so we can read and you can pass. Who'd like to start reading today? You can?
I've
yeah?
got my own book,
Okay, you've got your own book. I'll give you a book then. Hold on 1 second. Lesson 29. Okay, 1 second. Okay, do you want to, yeah, you can start.
The idea for today explains why you can see all purpose in anything. It explains why nothing is separate by itself or in itself, and it explains why nothing you see means anything. In fact, it explains every idea we have used thus far, and all subsequent ones as well. Today's idea is the whole basis for vision. You will probably find this idea very difficult to grasp at this point. You may find it silly, irreverent, senseless, funny, and even objectionable. Certainly God is not in a table, for example, as you see it. Yet we emphasized yesterday that a table shows the purpose of the universe, and what shows the purpose of the universe shows the purpose of its creator.
Try then today to begin to learn how to look at all things with love, appreciation, and open-mindedness. You don't see them now, but you know what is this them, what is in them. Nothing as it appears to you. Its holy purpose stands beyond your little range. When your vision has shown you the holiness that lights up the world, you will understand today's idea perfectly, and you will not understand how you could ever have found it difficult.
Our 6 2-minute practice periods for today should follow a now familiar pattern. Begin with repeating the idea to yourself, and then apply it to randomly chosen subjects about you, naming each one specifically. Try to avoid the tendency towards self-directed selection, which may be particularly tempting in connection with today's idea because of its wholly alien nature. Remember that any order you impose is equally alien to reality.
Your list of subjects should therefore be as free of self-selection as possible. For example, a suitable list might include: God is in this coat hanger, God is in this magazine, God is in this finger, God is in this lamp, God is in that body, God is in that door, God is in that wastebasket.
In addition to the assigned practice period, repeat the idea for today at least once an hour, looking slowly about you as you say the word unhurriedly to yourself. At least once or twice, you should experience a sense of restfulness as you do this.
Thank you. So feeling feelings. I'll give you an example of feeling feelings. And this really, and how to feel. And what I'm sharing now you can use for pain, you can use for grief, you can use for food addiction, you can use it for absolutely everything. Because but anyway, I'll explain it. So, and and I think by explaining it, it's like a metaphor for whatever you have to go through, whether it be sadness, food addiction, trauma, all of the things. In the end, so I used to suddenly have these huge inflammations in my feet, like huge horrific pain. And the feet, like basically it happens very, very quickly, and it's like tons of fluid in the feet, and it actually stretches the skin so that the flesh becomes red. And it's like excruciating pain. Suddenly there's tons of water in the foot, and the skin has been just totally stretched out and becoming red. So if you've never had a gout attack, that's what it's like. It's pretty horrific. And so it's like the most sharp, horrible pain, as literally the feet are being swollen at a very, very fast rate, too fast to be able to get relief. So I had this red swollen feet, and welcome. So I was just sharing about feeling feelings and gout attacks. I'd have these huge swollen feet, and you can use this for any type of feeling. So what I'd do is, like, I'd have like this labeling in my thing, like, this is horrible pain, and it's like excruciating in my foot, and I wish this pain wasn't in my foot. So it'd be like, then I'd go, I remembered Hawkins' words. It's like you want to 100% be present to it and not resist it. And you want to do this in a non-verbal form. So it's be like let go of thoughts as soon as they arise. And it's like having this inner attitude. And I coined it the spiritual warrior attitude, which is like, no, I want 100% of this to come up. And it's like, even if it's the worst thing ever, and it's absolutely 180 the opposite tendency to what I would normally do with a horrible feeling, it'd be like, yes, let it come up at maximum. So that's the kind of thing. So it'd be like, and when you do that, and more or less with anything, with panic attacks, pain, or traumatic feelings, it's like there's an initial immediate overwhelm. It's like extreme, just by saying yes to it. But then you just say yes to that, and you just have the courage to go through that spike. And then what happens is, you just say, you have to ride it. It's like very, very intense for a period of time. And you're just saying yes to it. You're not really labeling. So this is one of the things to realize, is not to let go of all stories. So as soon as a thought starts to emerge about what it is, and to try and explain it, you let it go immediately, and then it's like, welcome the feeling. And then another thought starts to emerge to try and describe what's going on, and you just let it go. So you're just trying to spend all the time just saying 100% yes. Like, let it come up 100% without any resistance. And then, so you're with it for a while, it's extremely intense. And then you let go, you start to realize that there's unconscious ideas around the feeling, like the pain is in my foot, but then you cancel that. So then what starts to happen, you're with it intensely, you even stop all stories, and just as a story emerges, a thought starts to emerge to describe what's going on. You let it go immediately, and then go back to fully being present with the feeling. Another thought starts to emerge, and then cut the thought or cancel it, and then back to being with the feeling, and like wanting it to be as intense as possible, which is the reverse of what is the normal reaction. Then you start to let go, you start to realize there's unconscious descriptions, like it's in a location, it's an intensity, so you just cancel those. And then if you just stay with it, and as the thoughts emerge, let them go, be with the feeling. And then what will happen is it will start to become more diffuse. Like in the beginning it might be located very strongly in an area, but now it starts to become more fluffy. And it starts to become pleasurable at this point, because you've taken the initial sting. And then I'd just be with it. And when I used to have gout attacks, it would be 30 to 45 minutes. I'd just be sitting in my chair and just feeling all, and what would happen over those 45 minutes would be the intense pain in the beginning, then it would be quite intense for a while, and then it would start to become more bearable and start to become more diffuse and fluffy. At that point, it's quite enjoyable, because by letting go of the thoughts constantly and bringing it back to the feeling, letting go of the thoughts, you start to get in the flow of just being with the feelings and not engaging in any kind of story or description. And you're even letting go of location. Like often feelings will be located in an area of the body. It could be the stomach or the foot. And then it becomes more diffuse. And then, at a certain point, the pain is gone. And quite literally, I could now walk. But I could only walk for probably about 4 or 5 minutes. And then it would start to, the pain, and then I'd have to sit down again. But, so this is the thing. Like, it's not necessarily that you're going to lose a physical illness in one sitting out. But over a period of a few years, what would happen, each time I did that, with the feeling coming up, and that feeling could represent food addiction, it could represent sadness, it could represent anger or fear or whatever it may be. What I found was that every time I felt that specific feeling out when it occurred, the next time it happened, it would be easier to do it, to feel the feeling out.
Yeah, hi.
And then what would happen is that I could get to peace at like in 45 minutes. After a few months. It was only taking 35 minutes to feel the feeling out. And then what would happen would be that the frequency of attacks, like I might get a gout attack every 3 or 4 weeks, they'd start to become less. they become, instead of every 3 or 4 weeks, it would be like, you know, every month, or, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, you know when sometimes I'm trying to sit and meditate, I've got all these thoughts and stuff.
Yes.
So it's the same kind of principle, isn't it? Just sort of sitting with it,
Yes.
allowing anything, you know, to come. And then just...
Say that again?
Like with the feeling, allowing the feeling to come.
Yes.
And in meditation, it's the same kind of thing, just allow the thoughts to come, don't resist them. Or,
well, you know...
chant a mantra or something.
Well, yeah. Well, for me, actually, the way for me is not to engage in thoughts. It's not to give them interest. You see.
But is it not the same principle? Like,
I
I see what you mean though, because it's a story, isn't it? If we're engaging in the thoughts, if we're paying interest in the thoughts, but.
You mean a mantra?
No. Just generally, like, you know, if you're sitting to meditate and then the thoughts are coming, and. You know.
I think there's one distinction I'd make, because I think some people, I think it would be a natural human tendency, when they meditate, they still may have an attitude of not wanting to allow feelings to come up. You know, it's like I'm doing something so that I don't feel any feelings during this thing. You see, so, and I think because I did the TM meditation, but TM are good because they say allow the feelings to come up, but this is yeah, it depends what you mean by meditation.
Just sitting and being, really.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. You said allowing the thoughts. Allowing the thoughts for me it just depends what that means. If allowing thoughts means engaging with thoughts, which allows them to grow more into stories, for me that wouldn't be useful. But if allowing for thoughts means to you you don't engage in them as much, then yes, if that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, hi, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Can you say if you want to be more helpful?
No, I don't know how.
You want to?
Yeah. Because I'm short.
It's actually a very, very good question. I was answering a question on thoughts and allowing. The key with thoughts is, especially if I'm feeling out feelings, is it's not useful if I engage in a story, which then becomes a very big story, which then allows, when the feelings are coming up, it means that I'm unable to process as much of the feeling out. So for me, it's kind of a subtle ego tactic. Because when a feeling is coming up, there's a huge tendency, because when feelings are coming up, to have more thoughts. You know, the thoughts, and often if it's a negative feeling, for the thoughts to be negative. Like, I've got a pain in my foot, let me run for the medication, let me call an ambulance, or it could be the end of the world, or maybe my leg's going to fall off. All of these things can happen. So as soon as I start to give interest to the first thought, you see, it depends what you mean by allowing. You see, if I give interest to that thought, and then that becomes a whole story that's non-stop, and then I spent like 5 minutes thinking and not really being present to the feeling, for me, that is actually a form of ego resistance to letting the feeling be fully processed out.
What if the thoughts just don't go? What do you do?
Okay, if the thoughts don't go, then, okay, I have several, it's a very good question, several tools. There's different tools you have in the armory. Actually, there's many tools, actually, but one of them I'll be talking about later, which is the observer. What is observing all the thoughts, which is not the thinking. So that then can give me some detachment, just asking the question. There's hundreds of thoughts right now, and I can't stop thinking. But what is observing all of the thinking, which is not the thinking? So that thing then suddenly disconnects you from being caught in the spiral of thoughts going on non-stop, you see. Suddenly that then means there's a detachment from the thoughts, and then you can then allow the feeling, you see. It also brings up, actually it's a very interesting question, because what I'm explaining here is not the observer, but just being present. But that's a different tool. going to the observer of the feelings, but that's another way. But okay, so if you're caught in the thoughts and you can't process the feelings, so one way is the observer, the other way is to cancel the thought. Now, it's a really good question. Let's say thoughts are going, you've got a really bad feeling, and thoughts are going at 100 miles an hour, and you're getting hooked into the thoughts, and it seems impossible to be fully present to any feeling coming up. Then, the thing to do then is, this is the process, and I'm going to explain it. You see, realize that a thought, well, if it's going 100 miles an hour, what you can do to stop a thought is just say, I cancel this thought. I cancel my belief in this thought. I cancel my belief in this story. Now, and that should hopefully give you a fraction of a second. And then realize that if you have to cancel your thoughts just continuously, I cancel this thought. But understand there's something different. See, as you start cancelling the thoughts, you don't want it to become a mental thing. You're cancelling the thought to get a tiny space to realize what you're doing is you're starting to make progress in catching a thought before it goes into a story, you see. So this is the process I would do with tough feelings. So in the beginning it's going to be tough, but you're going to have like very, very bad feeling, and then thoughts going 100 miles an hour. That's what seems to be happening. But say you cancel the thought, and then the next thought's already started. So you cancel that thought. The next thought's already cancel that thought. Now what you do is you cancel the thought, and then when you can, you go back to just being present with the feeling without thought. So you might only have a fraction of a second just to be with the feeling, and then the next thought already is hooked in, and it's starting, and it's going, yeah, but what about? But you try and cancel the thought, or let go of the thought as quickly as possible, and see if you can get another fraction of a second with the feeling. And then it's like you're hit with the next thought, and it seems you're just about, oh, what about tomorrow? Cancel that or stop that. And then as you keep doing that, you'll realize that the time spent with the feeling in the gaps will start to get bigger, and you can catch the thoughts a little bit faster, But that's your intention. Your intention is to stop a thought as soon as it arises, or as quickly as you're able to, and then see if you can get some time just being purely present with the feeling. Now, as you do that as a kind of an intention set, you see, you'll find that with time you're able to let go of the thoughts more and more quickly and then have longer gaps of just being present to the feeling. Yeah, and then eventually, you see, in the beginning, if you have a sudden trauma attack or a sudden amazing overwhelm of feelings, it's like you're stuck in the thinking very, very rapidly. But you just start cancelling and bring it back. It might take 5 or 10 minutes. It might not be very, very quick. But then you might be starting to get some gaps, just being present and fully present. And then like in the beginning, I was spending 45 minutes with a huge pain attack. So there can be a lot of thinking, and then trying to be present with the feeling. But for me, like I say, it's a miracle, an act of God that, my addiction's gone, my health has been restored. And it's just the thing of, that process becomes a way of life. When feelings occur, to feel the feelings and try and disengage from the thoughts. And it's a reverse of human attitudes, which I say, is when you have an unpleasant feeling is not to want to feel it. To either think and catastrophize about the feeling, or like in my case, I was a food addict. How can I eat as much food to not feel the feeling? Or how can I distract myself or put the TV on, or do anything not to be able to feel the feeling? So it's like, this is like, 100%, try and even let go of your thoughts and your thinking and be with the feeling. And it's like 100% like, go through it. And with experience, with my food addiction, going through the first panic attack where I couldn't breathe and there was no oxygen in the room, and not using any form of distraction, the first time I did that, I had the very first experience ever that I can go through a panic attack and sit through it and let go of the thoughts. Because the thoughts are, you're going to die, you've got to do something, or you're going to drop down dead, which are quite extreme. But I mean, that's, when you're letting go of addiction, you do get very, very extreme thoughts if you don't act out and you just try and be present to the feeling. But after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, suddenly there was air in the room. I had this is another thing. If you want to go through feelings, you have to call the bluff of your feeling that you're going through. So with panic attacks, the thought was, I mean, you don't have to do it, but for me, I was willing to do it. You trust your own guidance, but it was like, I trusted my mentor who said it's safe to go through a feeling. So I was willing to feel like there's no oxygen in the room, and the thought was, if you don't do something now, you're going to drop down dead. So for me, it was like, okay, you know, I'm willing to drop down dead, but I let that thought go. And it will say, oh, you're going to die, let it go. There's no oxygen in the room, let it go. And just be with that for like 15 minutes. And then it passed. Like, there was like, suddenly there was air in the room. Even though my whole body, it seemed like my body, and there was no oxygen in the room, and I was going to drop down dead. But I was willing to 100% feel it. And something radically shifts, you know, in overcoming addiction, in getting free of pains in the body, is that the next time you get a panic attack, it's like 100 times easier. It's not fun. And I only had 3 or 4 panic attacks, and more or less never had any for the last 7 or 8 years. So that's the thing of just having the faith to go through it. The same with, just to say, what about like physical pains? You know, when I had my, you know, Hawkins went through surgery pain without anaesthetic. So they were like cutting him without 0 anaesthetic. So that's pretty like hardcore spirituality, if you can do that. And he said that he sometimes would go off into bliss, but you have to be very, very advanced to not resist, not mentalize, 100% accept the feeling, and you can go into bliss if you do it perfectly. I'm not saying that one can do that all the time, but you know, but I have had the experiences of that with cramps. You know, like if you just ride it 100% yes, then the cramp doesn't happen. And I also had that once with, I remember in the early days, I'm just sharing the experience so that you know you can go through it. Yeah, I had, I was a food addict, so I was obviously having a lot of problems with food, but I had these bananas, which meant that I shouldn't have had them, and it meant that I was about to have a heart attack, so I had to have emergency treatment. And they brought out this long needle, which is about that long. I'm not joking. And not the tiny little needles for blood tests, and those are like easy. It was like this huge long needle that they were going to stick up my arm to give me this emergency treatment. And so I thought, you know, Hawkins went through surgery pain without anaesthetic, so I'm just going to I was like, and sometimes when you're just about to have this huge needle plunged into you, it does focus you to be 100% present to it. And I was going to like apply the tool, like I'm going to say yes, no matter how excruciating, no matter how horrible. I'm not going to make a story, and I'm just going to like, there's an art to it, like 100% yes. You know, as it's going in, 100% yes. And what happened was I went off into like, I was like losing consciousness, or going into like a blissful state. And they had to run off and like, because they were giving me sugary drinks. But I did actually have the sugary drinks, but that's, you know, if you get it right, you just go off into bliss, you know, even when they're shoving a huge needle into you. So that's, and I've had that with cancer. So when you start to work it, you know, you can experience the most radical things, but sometimes you're not lucky. Sometimes you have to like sit with it for 40, 45 minutes. Now, when I share this, so it's just like, you know, addictions will leave you, physical problems will leave you. It's just the backlog. For me, like letting go of all the darkness. Yep, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, can you use that technique with conflict, the 100% yes? Because I get scared of having conflict with people and sort of back off or avoid it or don't say anything. But then other stuff is going on inside of your feelings and thoughts that build up into something else. There's resentment, which then I've got to somehow let go of. And I'm wondering, when I don't start the conflict, but often when I'm faced with it, I don't know what to do. Kind of just kind of freeze or go numb. And I'm just wondering if I could, like, say silently, say the 100% yes, what would happen with that conflict, where I'm just kind of facing it and accepting it. And
what will happen I mean, it can be used.
I'm not talking about physical conflict. I'm talking about verbal conflict.
Well, I mean, the tool here is about feeling the feelings, which is it's. I mean, when you say conflict, I mean you can deal with the. There's two ways of feeling feelings. One is, but when you're more advanced, generally in the early days, if you try and speak, and you have to talk, and you're feeling your feelings, it will switch off your capacity to be fully present to the feelings. Later on, when you get much more advanced, you're able to, it's not you, because there's no you. It's just like, whatever is happening, there's a full presence to it. So something can talk, but there's no identity there, which is later on. In the early days, if there's verbal conflicts that are going on, then you can still try, but generally the way I would do it was, if I get some kind of difficulty, I would sit with the feelings afterwards and take all the feelings out. And then what will then happen is that you'll start to take the power out of that individual, because you're taking out all the. See, like for example, let's say I'm. You see, the ego operates by projection. It gets triggered by similar circumstances. Let's say I had an auntie that was always vicious to me all the time and very, very critical. You know, like anytime I see someone who represents or is similar in their aura or their nature to my auntie, it's like I can suddenly feel very upset or angry or traumatized. So it's like, it's not really the person, it's just like my internal projection of this type of personality. And I have a backlog of feelings, so she can still, that type of personality still affects me. So each time I sit with all of those feelings, then the next time I'm with that person, you should find more or less that they affect you a little less, because you've taken away that backlog of, there's like a huge backlog of suppressed feelings. You know, there's another story I'll quickly tell you. Like, when I first stopped my food addiction, and I knew about this process I was telling you, like, one of the worst traumas I had is quite funny. When I was young, I found a baby pigeon, and I brought it up, and so one day, I think it's a bit upsetting, but anyway, one day, he would like, I had a box next to my bed, and he would sit on the box and sleep next to me, and I'd sleep in my bed, and he would just like look at me, and he would go to sleep on the box, you know. And anyway, one day, he'd been my pet for a few years. I brought him up from little baby, I hand fed him. One day I woke up, I didn't see him on the box, and then I was looking for him, and I realised he'd come into the bed with me, and I'd rolled over and killed him. It was very, you know, I was in food addiction at the time, and you know, and I'd sort of, so he's like a son basically. But anyway, so I killed him, and I had to, at that time, it was many years ago, of course I was a food addict at the time, so the only way I could deal with it, at that time, it was one of the most horrific things that happened up to that point in my life, was I immediately boiled a huge pan of potatoes. This huge pan of potatoes, because I wasn't going to feel that trauma. And I just got this huge bit of butter, and I was just putting the butter on the potatoes and just eating as much as I can to try and blot out the feelings. So
I thought it was going to be something worse than that.
That was pretty bad for me anyway.
I thought you were going to eat it.
No. I bet he's buried in the garden.
It's a pet.
Okay.
I heard George Clooney did that though, funny enough, with his pig. He barbecued it after it.
His pig? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So anyway, so I ate so I wasn't willing to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
But when I came into spirituality, so I'd known this gentleman, and we were both interested in 12 steps. We were both interested in A Course in Miracles and Hawkins and Muji, and we became really good pals. And anyway, one day I was in hospital, and it was quite funny. You know, life is funny. I was in hospital for something to do with my kidneys, and he was in hospital for something he didn't tell me about at the same time. And then I got a phone call from a friend that he had died in the hospital, all of a sudden. And I got this phone call, and this time it was like, I was 100%, 100% that I was going to feel the feeling and not use anything, and not even go into thinking, just be 100% present to the enormous grief that my friend had died. I'd found like a good buddy, and we were sharing spirituality, and we really resonated. I really loved the guy, and he was dead all of a sudden. And so it's like, this was the first time in my life I said, I'm going to be 100% present. And it was more or less the first time, like tears were streaming down my face, because I was not using any food or anything. And I just stayed 100% present. I was just sitting up in the hospital bed, being 100%. And then it was quite miraculous, a very, very miraculous experience. After a period of time, there was suddenly like, I came into this kind of deep peace and acceptance, like he was gone. And it's kind of miraculous. I don't exactly know what happened, but from that time on, I just accepted. I had this deep peace and acceptance that he's gone, and I didn't grieve anymore. So I just went through it in one big wave, and I had this deep peace on the other side. That he was gone. So that was that thing with him. So it's like, if you don't use, but that was a miraculous one. Sometimes, like with the gout, you have to do it, and it takes a couple of years each time it goes through. So, yeah. So any questions? Yeah.
A weird one, maybe weird. But can you do it with tiredness?
Yes, you can do it. You can do.
If you give in to tiredness, you'll be asleep. No, sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I'm a bit tired. I can't sleep. I've got loads to do today. But I'm just thinking, like, to be present to the tiredness. Because I've had moments where I might have had like a realization, and then actually I've snapped out of the tiredness.
Well,
so that's also, I just wondered, like, tiredness, is it really tiredness, or is it, the thoughts creating
Well, tiredness, my favourite one is self-inquiry. You want to do some self-inquiry?
Sure.
Tiredness, for different, there's different tools I use for different things.
Okay.
This is self-inquiry. So this shifts me the fastest out of tiredness. So what are you experiencing now?
Just like a heaviness around my eyes.
Okay. So there's heaviness around your eyes.
A bit cold.
Okay. Heaviness, and you're feeling, there's a feeling of cold. So there's heaviness around the eyes, and there's cold all over the body.
Yeah, and just like heaviness in the head.
Okay. So heaviness is something that is sometimes here and sometimes not. Okay. So there have been times in your life when you haven't been tired. I remember there's been a time when you haven't. Okay. So there's been times when you haven't been tired, and and there's been tiredness. So this is something that can come and go. Okay. So anything that can come and go must mean that there's something which can observe it, being here and not being here, which is not the thing. So basically, tiredness is an object. Okay. So like some days I can see a mug of tea in front of me, and some days it's not in front of me. Now, am I a mug of tea on the days that the mug of tea is in front of me? No, I'm not. Because the mug of tea, I am the observer, which knows there's a mug of tea here today, and is also still here when there's not a mug of tea. So there's something which is observing the mug of tea, which is not the mug of tea, you see. So that's the same tiredness. Something is here which can observe no tiredness, then tiredness coming, and then tiredness is gone. But that which is observing the tiredness is not the tiredness. So let the tiredness be here. Can you go to that which is observing the tiredness, which is not the tiredness? What is observing the tiredness? Is that which is observing the tiredness tired?
No, just feel very aware of you.
Yeah. Okay. So is the awareness tired?
No, I don't think so. I felt this like sensation here, like felt like breath, but yeah.
Okay. So is there a problem in this moment?
No.
No.
I can't can't seem to put a word to it. I just know that I'm looking at you differently. Like, it feels like I'm more aware of you.
Yes.
Something. Yeah.
And is there any problems in awareness?
No, because it feels like the more I'm focused on you, the less I am on the tiredness. I don't even know where that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Is there a you that's focusing on me? Where is this you? What is this you? Is it? Can you point to it?
I feel like your questions. I don't know where it is.
Okay, so it's nowhere. Okay. So is there a problem?
I
No.
don't think so.
Yeah, you don't need to think.
That's what I kind of sense that, oh, it's like, you know, the body in the stories is the thing.
Yes.
But the other,
Yes.
you know, like I can't even put a word to the other.
That's right. So there's a hooking into body and story, which then allows tiredness. So actually, there's a subtle hooking in you're unaware of. But when you're in the observer, or the presence, which is not located in any location or any form or any object, and that is not anything related to form. You see. So I had that. In fact, that's it's at the moment it's on my YouTube channel. You know, I once went into to see Muji, and I explained the first time, but there was once when I went in, it's on video, I was totally exhausted, and I had a totally, like kidney failure, you have a muffled brain. It's like there's so much stuff, it was totally muffled brain, totally, my speech was slurring a bit. And he did the self-inquiry with me. It was miraculous. It was like I came in with this huge fog, and it was like, of course there's a medical reason. You know, I've got like huge toxins in my blood. That's why I've got a foggy brain. He just asked me, and then suddenly I was like clear-minded, and everything was bright, and there wasn't a single problem, you know, in the body, and the energy was like fully alert. So it's just like when you connect to the source, all of it disappears. So you realize then that tiredness and exhaustion, so all that it's unconscious, but mental interest in the body, mental interest in stories and belief systems, means you're cut off from infinite light, infinite energy, infinite power, infinite love, infinite presence, infinite oneness, beyond duality, you know, beyond this and that, you see, before all things. You connect to that, and then everything is gone. So that's the way, that for me is the best way to let go of tiredness. I use the feel the feelings for like gout stuff, but tiredness I use that one for. Because, you know, tiredness is like a form, it's something that can come and go, and that which is observing tiredness, if you do it, that which is observing tiredness is not tired. You always get there. Like, tiredness does not observe tiredness. What is observing tiredness is not tired. What is observing tiredness is not a form, you see. So then your energy. So I knew, ever since I had that experience with Muji, that tiredness is just an unconscious linking into stories and the body and feelings, and then suddenly exhaustion and tiredness. Those people with, like Muji, like Hawkins says, he only has 3 or 4 hours, he's dead now, 3 or 4 hours sleep a day. You know, because once you let go of all that addictive hooking into the thoughts and the body, you know, you don't need hardly any sleep. That state is very, very energizing. And also you don't hook into stories. So it means you go through the day, it's effortless, it's present, you're not really identified very strongly with the body, it's very expansive, and often there's lots of peace and joy and bliss, you see. And you need so it's letting that go. So that's what I'd use that with the tiredness rather than the feeling the feelings. But feeling the feelings, you know, there's like, when you feel feelings out, you just have to be present to them. So if you have tiredness and you buy the thought, like I'm going to lie down, I wouldn't lie down. Because that's like not wanting to feel the feelings, you see. Yeah. I was talking about pain before, actually. So pain. Yeah, but pain is basically
physical pain.
Yeah. So I've done it. Okay, so with I'll do a different one. Pain. With it depends. You know, when I've had gout pain I describe. You just don't. You see, you don't label it. You don't make a story about it. You just be 100% present. And what you could do it for physical pain. You can do it with asthma. You can't breathe. You can do it with panic attacks. You can do it with surgery pain. You can do it with all things, all symptoms, because all symptoms. You see, pain is just the thing is, whether you're having a panic attack, whether you're having sadness, whether you're having pain,
obsessions
or obsessions. Well, obsessions is thoughts. You know, that's not a feeling. You see, that's slightly different context. But with the say I've got a pain in my foot, 100% welcome the feeling. The aim is to be like purely feeling it and wanting to feel it at the maximum, and minimizing engaging in thoughts during the process. So it's like as soon as a thought emerges, either cancel it, let go of it, and go back to being with the feeling. As soon as another thought, go back to being with the feeling. Now, then you let go of, once you do that for a while, you let go of the location. You let go of the label. Because pain is like an idea. You know, pain is just a thought, a mentalization. Pain is just a thought. Grief is a thought. Sadness is a thought. That, you see, when you let go of the label, it becomes more diffuse. You see, when you let go of the stories, eventually it becomes an energy, a diffuse energy, and then it vanishes. So you definitely, that's how I let go of a lot of my illnesses. So it's the process. Now, obsessions, you know, again, the same thing is either you cancel the thoughts as they emerge, or you can go to the what is observing all thoughts, which is not thoughts, and then you let go. So that's how you do it with pain.
But when you say cancelling a thought,
cancelling of beliefs. So lesson 14, like a lot of you will know, lesson 14 from A Course in Miracles. So lesson 14 from A Course in Miracles is, I'm paraphrasing, God did not create cancer, so it is not real. You know, God did not create wars, so it is not real. So basically, everything that's manifesting is because of beliefs held in mind. Now, there's personal beliefs and there's the collective, but we'll talk about personal beliefs. If you hold a belief system, I have cancer, then that means you'll have cancer. That can express as cancer. Or if I hold a belief I'm clumsy, then I become clumsy because of holding the belief. Or I'm going to be in poverty, you know. Or when you cancel a belief, you know, God did not create cancer, so it is not real. Just that affirmation, and if you did check it out kinesiologically, your arm will go strong. You know, Hawkins used another phrase, which is just the same thing. I cancel my belief in cancer. I'm an infinite being, subject only to what I hold in mind. Anyone who's had spiritual experience will know that they are infinite, beyond all limitation, all thought, time, and location. So that's infinite being. So you just have to cancel the belief in the limited, or ideas of separation, if you like. And then then these illnesses and all these limiting ideas and these beliefs and programs start to disappear from your life. So that's happened in it. So I use the Hawkins, you can use either the Hawkins or the Course in Miracles, and we go around the room. But, you know, I've had, my kidney failure, I had a transplant, I was discharged from the asthma clinic. My gas attack stopped. I stopped the medication for that. And that was one of the fundamental tools. Apart from doing the Course in Miracles, reading Hawkins literature and doing self-inquiry, cancelling beliefs, you see. So any beliefs that you're holding in mind, you can cancel. You know, cancel my belief that, even the Course in Miracles hammers away at one of the most fundamental beliefs. One of the strongest beliefs in the ego is I'm a body. Now, you know, if you've done all of the Course in Miracles, you realise the Course hammers that one regularly. I'm not a body, I'm free, for I am as God created me. So that then loosens up the belief system in attaching to the body, and you start to get more unlimited experiences of presence and beingness. So, but just to recognize, if you got any thoughts like I'm clumsy, or I've got cancer, or you can cancel them. So we'll go round, and then you can pass if you like, but you can, yeah.
Are you saying that if you cancel a belief that you have an illness,
Yes.
You can heal yourself?
Okay, so, well, I shared my experience. Of course, it's up to divinity, and it's also there's also a karmic component.
Karmic account.
There's karmic, yes, exactly. So,
But I can help in some sort.
Well,
counseling.
let's say, for a full belief to be let go, it will depend on the level of emotions attached to that belief system, suppressed feelings, and how strongly that belief is held in mind. So let's say you're 90 years old and you've got end-stage cancer, and the doctor says you've got 5 days to go, and you start cancelling your beliefs. You may not have enough time to clear out all your feelings and cancel the belief, because the belief will
There's no
still...
order of health.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So the Holy Spirit has spoken. Then you have to do you have to speak to Demetra, and she'll remind you that there's no order of difficulties. My experience with major illnesses, my own personal experience, was it took 3 to 7 years. For small things, it can be a lot quicker, but that was my personal experience. Why? I think but there's no order of difficulty in miracles, so it may be a lot faster for you or instant. But for me, it's like certain beliefs are very, very strongly held in mind, and having done a degree in science, the ego can defend certain belief systems. Like, surely cancer is not an idea in your head, so it can counteract it. But the Course in Miracles gives instructions, you have to challenge the belief as soon as it comes up. It actually says that in the Course in Miracles. So as soon as a thought comes, I have cancer, you have to go, I cancel, God did not create cancer, it's not real, or I cancel my belief. And then, it's like how strong that belief is, and the consciousness starts to weaken each time you do it. And when it's gone, it's gone. So there's no, very rightly said, there's no order of difficulty in miracles, I'm sharing my experience. But it's not an ego thing, you see. Also, what I'd say with Hawkins is when you do spiritual work, you should let go of the outcome. You see, it's not like, otherwise you'd just be angry at God, you see. Like I've been cancelling my belief for 3 days and it's not gone yet. So you've got to do the course and let go.
Then you're seeing it through time as well, which doesn't exist.
Yes. So you can cancel your belief in time.
Mm.
So this thing of doing something with an ego having an outcome in a period of time is also a trap, which can make things slower or worse, hinder the process. Any other questions or before we go around?
I'm just trying to get the words. There's one, I cancel my belief in whatever.
Yeah.
I am an infinite being. Subject
only to what I hold in mind. So that's the thing of, if we are infinite beings beyond separation, time and location and all form, then what makes us subject to being a separate entity within the world? So the separation is based on interest or identification with limiting ideas or forms. Forms can be the concept of time, the tracking of time, location, images, memories, and any thought, with all thoughts by their nature being discrete. If you give investment and interest in them, limit you and create more of a sense of separation. So you're subject only to what I hold in mind. If you don't have the thought, I have cancer in mind, you're not going to have it. Because it's that, I can go into this, the science and physics of it, but I think we'll leave that for another day. So, like, so if God is the infinite source of everything, as you let go of thoughts, then you start to go towards that which is beyond time, beyond location, beyond thought. But as you start to hook into thoughts, they manifest, you see. So whatever the ego holds in mind, it's like the power of God then allows it to manifest, you see. As you let the thought go, it no longer exists. So, yeah, okay. Every day, yes, of course. I mean, I think I'm on my 7th or 8th year of doing the Course of Miracles, you know, every day, one lesson. 8th year now, I think.
So you would advise to keep continuing once you...
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't. I would.
So I'll keep going.
I would definitely.
You get a different understanding.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't.
what I was thinking.
You know, obviously, the Course does say you can throw away the book at the end, but that's if you're enlightened. I think most people, I mean, there's no order of difficulty in miracles, but my experience I wasn't quite fully enlightened at the end of my first year. So, no, because they're so powerful. And the Course teachers taught me one of the most valuable things that I got from no other place, which is discipline. You know, regular discipline. And, you know, as I was doing the Course, I mean, many people know this, you know, the Holy Spirit recommended I buy this Casio watch from Argos. And literally, it can
So in communication with the Holy Spirit? What do you mean?
well, I think it did.
Are you joking?
It's kind of a half joke, half joke. I do believe I was guided to it as well.
You was guided.
Go to Argos.
It somehow there was an intention in mind. How am I going to, like, every 10 minutes? How am I going to make sure? Because Hawkins said that they got free of cancer and AIDS, and I had horrific illnesses. And he said doing the Course of Miracles. So I wanted to do it 100% perfectly, because literally I was in that much hell, you know. So when the Course of Miracles say do it every 10 minutes, it was like, you know, I had this huge intention. You know, God help me. How am I going to remember every 10 minutes throughout the day to do my lesson? And then suddenly it just came. I was looking for something, and then that clicked. And I've had this watch now. Not this watch. I have to buy several because the straps break. But you know, nowadays it goes on every not in here, but it's every 5 minutes. You know, reminding me to get to, if I'm engaged in thought, to just go back to the presence. You see, to remember the lesson for the day, and then just quickly go into the beingness out of thought. You see, so. That's, you know, I haven't got that level of discipline from anything else. The Course really teaches that level of ferocious discipline. It ramps you up very slowly, like hourly, and then half hourly, and then eventually it talks about every 10 minutes sometimes within the Course. So I definitely recommend, because it's like each year you do it, it'll strip off another layer of you being addicted to thoughts and addicted to all kinds of externalized forms. Okay, so
I thought you started, because I haven't got long, so I'm going to go so that we don't interrupt.
okay, yeah.
So from the place where you're without thought, then you're in a place of creation, and because you're still going to want to create things in your life. It's that we can't be in a place of doing nothing. We might not need anything, but you're still, like, we're living in this world where we have to have things. So it's coming from a different place of not so much need, but creating. Is that right?
Well, need is the vibration of lack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, you know, you need somewhere to live and things like this. When you can reach a state of feeling complete, but you still have to achieve certain things to function in this world. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, or do you disagree?
Well, you know, those are fear-based thoughts, aren't they?
Yeah, what?
Fear-based thoughts.
So how would it be without fear? How would
you know, how would it be without your ego?
Well, that's kind of what I'm asking you. Would you just create from a place of completeness then? Is that how it is?
Yes.
I guess I do have a fear of if I give up all desire of wanting to achieve or progress or, you know, then I don't know, not having anything and be...
You'll be a vegetable.
Yeah. Yeah. Like not do anything. Do you see what I mean? It's like...
Alright.
Oh, thank you, Claire. I'll be in contact.
Take care.
I'll be in contact with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Like,
Thank you for sharing your mind.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet
do you need to set goals? Do you need to have a certain sense of having to progress to achieve things, you know?
No, well, you do, when you're in the beingness, there is no sense of goals. That's engagement in thought.
Yeah.
So, if you we can do. So, I mean, right now, because I do this process that Muji taught me, self-inquiry, because that can answer your questions. So, right now, how do you experience yourself? What is yourself in this moment?
Yeah, being complete.
Okay. Is there any lack in this moment?
No.
Do you need any fear-based thinking? Is that required? Okay. So, now, if I ask you a question, you intellectualize, but this state of pure beingness, in this state of pure beingness, things spontaneously happen.
Okay.
There's no you there to worry about the future. You know, there can, you know, when you can stay in this state, talking can happen, but there's nobody talking. Right? So it's just it's like the universe is just allowing whatever expression to be, but there is no I thinking it's a separate entity, fearing the future. Yes.
So, is it having full faith? Is that right?
Well, that's required at the end. I mean, you can give up bit by bit, but in the end, when you're in the beingness, there is nothing to fear. There's nothing that is wanted. There is no need of the future.
So in order to give up everything, you just have to put all your faith in God.
Yes. I mean,
rather than yourself as a separate.
Yes.
Yeah.
That eventually you come to the point of the fear of the death of the ego.
Yeah.
And the ego is based on separation and fear.
Yeah.
You know, like without me thinking about the future and being afraid or having desires, then I won't exist, I'll die, or I'll be boring, or something like this. Yeah. So all of these need to be given up at a certain point.
I see.
If you know, like one of the lessons in the Course of Miracles is I place the future in the hands of God.
Right.
It's not like it's not even like I place tomorrow in the hands of God and I can think about controlling today. In absolute faith, there is no future. You see, there is no, and actually, when the beingness is a state which is not lack. It doesn't even think about where is my next meal coming from. So there is no you there, but something orchestrates what is left spontaneously. So
you're guided.
Well, there's no you who's been guided. Saint Francis, I think, says it nicely. You become an instrument of peace.
Okay.
So there's no you there that needs to worry about the future. But something, you know,
How do you know? How do you know you're being lost?
Well, how would you know? That would be the separate you that wants to know.
Yeah. So it's a case then always questioning, am I coming from fear or am I coming from...
Well, okay, so let's go back. Well, what are you right now?
Here.
Okay, is the you that's here now, is it a thought?
what I'm thinking and saying is thought, yeah.
Okay, is this thinking and thoughts, is this you? I mean, experientially, I'm not asking as an intellectual hypothesis.
No, it's coming from doubt and questioning
So,
of what isn't here right now. Yeah.
so there's thoughts and there's doubts. There's doubt, yes?
Mm.
Is this doubt, so this doubt and this questioning, this is your experience of what you are in this moment, is that correct?
Well, the questioning isn't me. Well, it's a separate thing, isn't it? I don't know.
Okay, so
I'm trying to analyse.
you're trying to, okay, so this is fine. Like, you know, St. Francis said this thing, which is that what you're looking for is where you're looking from. And so Muji talks about, so, you know, thoughts, you know, thoughts. When thoughts occur, there is something here which observes thoughts, which is not thinking. Okay. So, sometimes there's been times in your life when there's been stillness and peace, even for a split second. There's been no thoughts, and then there can be times when there's lots of thoughts. So that means that there is something here which is observing thoughts, which is not thoughts. You see. So, for the recognition that there's no thoughts here, and that there are thoughts here, and there's no thoughts again, something observes thoughts, which is not thoughts. You see. So what does that mean? It means like, thoughts can be like this camera in front of me. The camera is like an object. Am I the object that is seeing the object? No. I am that which is observing the object, because...
Becoming the observer.
Yes.
Or the space.
Yes, the space that's observing thoughts. So these thoughts, you see right now, there's something which is observing the thoughts, which is not the thoughts, which is clearly not the thoughts. Can you go to that which is observing the thoughts? Okay. So, now, if I speak to you now, are you your thoughts? No. So that's that. So that means that you have a spiritual experience, that you are not your thoughts. You see, in this moment of clarity, you are not your thoughts. I mean, thoughts can happen, like a camera can be in front of you, but there's clarity, you are not the thinking. So, eventually, when this state becomes stable, you know, like there can be thoughts, there can be talking, but you're not the thoughts. You're not the talking. And what the body does, there's nobody there. There's no I identity that has got anything to do with anything. So it's just pure presence, and whatever happens is the realm of that.
Okay. And so when the Course in Miracles talks about the constant state, that's what it's referring to.
Yeah, yes, because it talks about, you know, there's time that passes. All thoughts are meaningless. I'm not a body, that's a belief. Okay. So, and it talks about letting go of form. So thought is form, the body is form, time is just tracking of time, location. So that lets go of, you know, more or less everything. So after that, you have a spiritual realization of something beyond all of those. So that's that which is beyond form.
So love itself is that.
That is love.
Yeah.
That is limitless. That is beyond separation, because there has to be a me to be in separation. And obviously a me can then be in fear. A me then needs to control things. So, I mean, it's, as you said, there's levels of faith, you know. Because at a certain point, you know, if you stay in that state, you know, thoughts will come. No, you can't stay there because you won't be able to eat. But that's not true, because once you're in the observer, you realize eventually you become mature. You can be in the observer and you can talk.
Yeah.
You can be in the observer and you can eat.
And that's what David.
Yeah, that's enlightenment.
How he was living. Yeah.
Yeah, enlightenment. There's a few. It's not common. Not very few, I'd say. Hawkins said actually that there was only about 10 people at the time on the planet who were really enlightened.
Yeah, there's one video where he talks about his body and he refers to it as like this thing that just moves around and like because he's completely coming from that
Yes.
space all the time when he's talking and whatever he needs to say, just like you said, just
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
that was a great one. Yeah, that's the thing of in the beginning when he after enlightenment, people were talking to his body, didn't realize, and then he realized that they thought that body down there in the room was him. So then he had to pretend to like start speaking, and
he had to learn to function.
he had to learn. Yeah, it took
in
him
the
10
body.
years to learn to
Yeah.
function again.
Yeah.
If you have those spiritual experience, I mean, I had a white light spiritual experience. It wasn't enlightenment, but you know, the overwhelming power can really, it really is you take him into a different dimension. And if it's true enlightenment, it can probably take years, or it may not come back. You see, because you're off there. That's scary, isn't it? But again, that's again, you know, to what extent are you willing to experience that which is beyond all separation? But,
It's
yeah.
giving up all fear.
Yes.
essentially, is it?
So you're giving up all fear, having 100% faith.
Yeah.
Even going through the last thing, eventually you have the fear of the terror. You know, Hawkins talks about it regularly.
Yeah.
The fear of the death of the ego eventually comes up. Once you get to those very high states, if you can be the observer, Hawkins talks about the observer. Once you're able to stay in the observer for long periods of time, eventually you will open up the doorway because that's already very advanced. If you can be in the observer, are you in the observer now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can stay in the observer for long periods, a whole day, a whole week, then eventually you'll get the final thing because you're getting near. Suddenly you'll come up the huge terror of the death of the ego. You go through that.
To be a great healer, then, do you need to be more in that observer state?
Yeah, okay, this is my personal view, but I love Hawkins' research, and since you're a Hawkins thing, Hawkins follows the pathway of the mystic. Well, he does do devotion as well, but I think one of the stories in defense. I mean, it's not the only way to go the mystic path. There is selfless service, but you know, there was the guy Dr Hugh Len. He's a classical mystic, I'd say. And I think he's one of the more famous mystics today. But so, you know, there was a prison. This is quite famous. There was a prison, and he just got the records of all of the prisoners, and he just cleared away his belief systems around what the prisoners had done, and everyone in that prison got better and left. And he didn't really interact with them or talk to them.
Didn't have to even be there.
He didn't have to be there. He just cleared his thoughts.
Yeah, because it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
So now Hawkins, you know, on behalf of Hawkins said, and this is, I mean, it's my own personal approach. It's not the only approach, but you know, he said, and you probably know this. I can give you. So someone like at 200. Now at 300 you might be I make it roughly. You might be counterbalancing 40,000 people below 200. So the negativity, just to do the spiritual work to get up to 300, maybe you counterbalance the negativity of 40,000 people in the planet. Now if you can get to enlightenment, you know, to that state, you're counterbalancing, I think it's something like 10 million individuals just to be in that state. Because we're all connected. And the Course in Miracles does say that, you know, when you reach those states, everyone is helped, you know, around the world. So
So it's doing it from within.
that's
Heal other people.
that's my preference.
Yeah.
My preference is rather than going out trying to like forgive everybody, is like to work on letting go of my ego. It's not the only way to God, but it's like. But Hawkins says, even if you, for me, just Buddha, even if Buddha sat underneath a palm tree and just talked to 5 or 6 people during his life, just to be at that state was already counterbalancing 10 million people on the planet. You know, it's not, to other people, I mean, if Buddha's mother saw him, he'd probably call him, you know, a lazy, good for nothing. Like you go and do something useful, get a job or
That's
something.
what he had to let go of, even that, didn't he? When he left the palace, he had to let go of the thoughts of what other people thought of him, you know, to follow his purpose in a way.
Yeah, so for me, just even if it doesn't look like Dr. Hugh Len might seem to a casual observer to be like hardly doing anything.
Okay.
But
Dr. Hugh Len.
yeah, Dr. Hugh Len is very famous.
His
Oh.
known word, like Ho'oponopono, you must have heard.
Oh yes, is that from
that's-
him?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's a very famous. So
Mm.
to a casual observer, just seeing Dr. Hugh Len looking at a few files and doing nothing most of the day,
Mm.
they would say, well, he's not really doing much to save the world. Go out and help the starving children. You know, why don't you make yourself useful spiritually? So it doesn't look very active. Doesn't look very active. But just the clearing of the internal thoughts and representations of the world, I think it's documented there in a very sort of easy way to understand. It's not, you know, it's not the only way to help the world is to go out there and give a meal to a starving child. That's not the only way. Just clearing your thoughts of the world is already having immensely powerful effects on helping the world. Like in enlightenment, you know, like Buddha for me, would, you know, is kind of just the state of enlightenment is already, you know, helping about 10 million people on the planet, the negativity to be dissipated. So if you go to when you meet advanced spiritual teachers, you realize the whole room is full of like peace and bliss. You know, just their presence. You know, they might not be doing much or just saying a few words, but it's already like radiating out huge amounts of light and counterbalancing huge negativity. So, I mean, Mother Teresa is on the other side, like helping the starving. With that's another way to God. But you know, the mystic, in defense of the pathway of the mystic, for me, just working on your thoughts. You know, the cities, you know, with Hawkins research around 570. That's when the extraordinary happens. Miracles happen regularly. When you get to the high 500s, they're classically in Indian literature called the siddhis. So then you get people suddenly curing of cancer in your presence. All kinds of things automatically start happening. There's no you there though, see, the you is not there. It's like there's no you to say that I'm doing it for you, because the you doesn't exist any longer. But that's the amount of power that radiates out into the field. So, so personally, like, you know, I did Reiki, spiritual healing, so many different things on my way. But, you know, my own view is, you know, the level you're a healer is highly dependent on your level of consciousness, your conscious contact. If you've got huge amounts of thought activity and unresolved feelings and you're trying to heal people, it's going to be limited. You know, when you clear your negative belief systems and you clear your suppressed feelings, you don't even have to put your hands on people, you know, necessarily. You know, this, I mean, it looks...
So would you be drawn to healing people in that case?
Well,
or would you be, you know, attracted to people that...
It's a good question. I think for each individual that they're drawn in different ways, but for me, I'm more interested in clearing my ego first and then letting divinity decide how this entity is going to be in the world. Then to have a primary focus, like, I would definitely not just learn Reiki and not continuously work on clearing my thoughts and feelings.
That's the most important.
Because for me, the clearing of the ego is vital, and my capacity. I actually think that, you know, the hands-on effect is not the main factor. The most important factor is how much spiritual work you've done and how connected you are. And, you know, on some level, I think doing a lot of this is like doing stuff without ego. So, but yeah, it just varies. But primarily for me, it's like doing the inner work, and it's okay to put hands on people and stuff like that, and okay to make a living. But I just say that there's huge power in just releasing, doing your inner work, and that naturally means that you'll be so much more powerful in the world. But then you get guidance as you let go of the inner stuff. You get guided more and more in how you can be used.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I feel guided to this person who I keep seeing every day, and he's got MS.
Oh yes.
And all we do is sit together
Yes.
and talk. But would you say that's something that is a guided thing? Or
Okay, so I'm in a lot of what I call 12-step fellowships, which deal with things like food addiction and also people addiction. You see, and dysfunction around people. So codependency, various aspects like that. You see, a lot of the thing is, for some people, I'm not saying everyone, but you know, when one is not whole within, and one sees another person in distress, there can be a huge pull to save the other person and not do spiritual work. You see, like if I'm a food addict and I have food addiction, initially it'll be I want to save every other food addict rather than deal with my own problem. You see, because it distracts me, because I sort of see them, I relate to they've got what I've got, and I try and do a lot of saving them, but I never release the stuff within me that is blocking my spiritual connection. So I've seen that as being a very, very common thing to stop spiritual work. Now, of course, the Course in Miracles goes very heavily into the special relationships. So spirituality is getting towards the place of unconditional love and getting out of special relationships. So that's the whole essence of the Course, one of the whole essences. So when you become extremely drawn to one individual, then often for many people, that is a form of addiction.
Really?
You see, because it's like the ego manages not to work on developing more of a state of unconditional love, but tends to fixate very, very strongly with obsessive thoughts about one individual. So that's what I'd call a special relationship. So maybe that came across as a bit hard, but see, it's getting to the place of unconditional love. You see, everything is equally. That's the lesson we're going to do. Like, you see, this table is equally as lovable as that mug, which is equally as lovable as you. This is the lesson we're going to be doing today. God is in everything I see. That's the lesson, you see. So God wants the realization of seeing God everywhere, equally in all things, so that one can have God realization. Beyond, God is only in this mug of tea and nowhere else, and I have to be with this mug non-stop all the time, you see. But then I don't want to be with this phone because God is not in the telephone. I just want to be with the mug, you see. So then that becomes a block to certain spiritual realizations. It doesn't mean that once you see God everywhere you don't love the mug. It's just that everything is like a spiritual state. Everything is, the light of God is seen in everything. But I just say that for my own thing, because that's one of the things is one of the big things for me, is the special relationships. And for me, because I want that spiritual connection, in my own story, it has to be to let go. It's not because the ego is frightened you're letting go of love. It's not letting go of love, you're letting go of special love. And trusting that universal love will take its place. Even if I had a special relationship, I can still apply the Course in Miracles. You know, my thoughts about the person are meaningless. You know, like how I do that in terms of a context. Say I had I don't know, for example, a romantic relationship. And I just wanted to. Actually, I wouldn't want to be just with that one person all the time and only feel good with that one person. Actually, I wouldn't want that. But if I was in that thing, I'd doing the early lessons in A Course in Miracles, like this table is meaningless. You know, this table is equally as meaningless as this chair, which is equally as meaningless as that plant, which is equally as meaningless as that bulb. I would actually do that with a romantic partner. I wouldn't want to develop like a special attachment. You see, because then what happens? In terms of codependency and addiction, it's like you only feel good if you're with them, and when you're with them, you feel awful. Without them, you feel awful.
This isn't
it isn't like that with him, but he's just a friend, but there's no pull. I just mean like it's just happened. Like I don't like think about him all the time. He's just a person who's come into my life, and I guess I have the time and I like feel drawn to sitting with him. But it could, you could be right. It could be coming from a lack thing. I don't know. I haven't considered it, but it's definitely not. I wouldn't call it an addictive relationship. It's not.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have experienced relationships like that previously, so I understand what you're saying. I do, and it's something I've worked on letting go of. So yeah, it's an interesting thought.
In the beingness, of course, you see, if I was like, let's say I was enjoying something, I was enjoying eating a meal. As soon as I finish the meal, it's totally forgotten. I'm in the next present moment. And that moment is equally as beautiful. And the stunning beauty of everything is equally revealed. And there's no past. There's no memory of that thing. Because every moment is self-contained. It's the beingness, it's the presence, you see. If there's suddenly like a hearkening, like, oh, I wish I could go back to the food, or I wish I could go back to that person, or there's some feeling of loss because that thing isn't there and there's some kind of memory or emptiness, you see, then for me that's something I'd start working and processing out. Because it's like...
How would you do that? Yeah.
So this was, I share about the two things. I'm repeating myself, but in the beginning I was talking about how to feel out feelings. Sorry, I'm just repeating this bit again. So with any attachment, there'll often be a backlog of, well, this is different. With relationships, you see, let's say somebody dies or a relationship comes to an end. You see, if there's like a huge backlog of feelings, then one of the things I do is I just sit with the feeling, I welcome it, I like 100% want to be with it, and then I stop all labeling. I try not to engage in thoughts about the feeling, and just say 100% yes, I want to experience it, and it'll come like a big wave.
So you just allow it?
You just allow it, 100%.
Like however it is,
yeah. Yeah, without... And you cancel the thoughts, or let the thoughts go as quickly as possible, and just let the full feelings come up. So it's like with everything, like the therapist called that going through the grief response. You're letting go of the attachment, you see. So you feel out the sadness, you feel out the tears, then you feel out the anger, and then you get to a peace, and then you find that, you more or less don't think about it, or the memories are neutral, and you stay present, you see. So then you've taken out the attachment, that attachment build-up, or the longing, or the specialness of the relationship. Then you can stay, then you're able more to stay in the present moment, you see. So when you get to the higher spiritual states, when you get to higher spiritual levels, they're like spiritual states, which are constant. You see, the beingness is a constant thing. When you have thoughts going back, or feelings of loss, because, oh, I can't eat ice cream in this moment, or oh, that person isn't here in this moment, then that sort of disconnects you from the beingness, or the stillness, or the oneness, or the love that is beyond all form, beyond all attachment. So with the feeling, I feel the feelings out without attaching to stories. With the thoughts, either I cancel the thoughts, or with thoughts, there may be great resistance to do this, but I did this with my mother. I was willing to make her totally meaningless. You see, I found that it's very, very safe to let go of any projected relationship or any ties, in my experience, because the natural innateness of the universe is pure love. So you can let go of all your labels and thoughts and stories, and even how you did it. So it was like to make my mother like to have the same meaning as a chair, you see. My mother is as meaningless as a chair, as meaningless as a mug of tea, as meaningless as a plant. What that removes is my perceptual filters that I had programmed and related to her. Does that make sense? And then what you find is you actually have a much more loving, spontaneous relationship, because all my past history of belief systems and projections have been removed. So it makes for a far more blissful, holy relationship. One of the things is, often an attachment, how big an attachment is when it's either ended or you're forced to stop it. You see, then you realise, if it's like, if like you have a friend and they say, oh, I'm going to Jamaica tomorrow and I'm going to stay there and I'm going to live in a community where there's no phone and there's no email, so goodbye, I'm off. If you're like fine with that, you're happy for them, and you can still stay present in the next moment, then that means you have zero attachment. If you're a little bit sad and you can let go of it quite quickly, that means you had a tiny attachment. If it creates a huge trauma, then that means there was a major attachment.
Which means you're giving it a lot of meaning.
Yes, a lot of meaning, a lot of power. So sometimes with certain relationships, you don't, but applying the Course in Miracles or feeling your feelings out regularly and processing them out will mean that you can stay in pretty good spiritual condition.
Would you work on letting go of the meaning itself?
Yes, the meaning and feeling out any feelings. Often if you want the person to be a certain way, that often means attachment. Like if they say something and you get very upset, or if you need them to call you regularly, or if you have to see them regularly, or if they go away and you start to feel quite upset. Those are all indicators of attachment. Having given a lot of, it's like you said though, there's levels of attachment. Sometimes it can be very, very light, just hardly doing anything. And sometimes it can be at the level of addiction, where if they were to suddenly go away, you'd go into a huge emotional reaction. One way is you can try and fool yourself. Imagine they said, this is partly, I'm writing my book. If you imagine this person suddenly saying to you, hey, I really, really like you, but I'm going away to Africa tomorrow, and I'm going to stay in a place where there's no connections. So, okay, goodbye, I'm leaving now. So you just gauge what type of reaction comes out of you, you see. That will give you an indicator into how strong it is.
We shouldn't have that with any.
Pardon?
We shouldn't have that level of attachment with anyone.
Well, if you're enlightened, you won't.
No.
If you're, it depends what stage of processing and where you are in your spiritual journey. But my own thing, like with my mother, it was to make her totally meaningless. And my experience has been the relationship was far better without all my projected meaning. You see, because mother had so much connotations. Her vocal tone had so many connotations for me, and all her things. If I can clear all my history and all the things, all my associations with her, to make by doing the Course, she's as meaningless as a cup of tea. It actually meant my relationship was better because I just cleared away all the historic stuff. You see, then I was able to. Like, if I speak to a stranger, they have more or less zero impact on me because I don't take them seriously, but I can have a lovely time with them. But if I have a lot of history, a lot of projected baggage, then if they say something or do something that I don't like, then they can have a huge traumatic reaction to them. So the book I'm writing, Bulletproof Peace, is about, our essence is that we're not a victim of the world we see. This is, of course, in miracles, really. You're not a victim of a person. You're not a victim of a person and what they say to you. You're not a victim of whether a person is here or not, you see. So, otherwise, so that's indicating, or meaning. To the extent your ego gives meaning, how much meaning is it giving to any particular person, place, situation, or body? If it gives huge meaning to something, it means massive attachment. Yeah, it's like if I give, if it gives no meaning to it, like I often share in this group, when you actually often things disappear when you have no meaning to them. So I often share in the group when I talk about self-inquiry, like one day I was talking, and then I mentioned, can you hear the noise outside? And everyone could hear the traffic noise outside. But while I was talking before, no one could hear the noise. You see, so when you lose your interest or give something no meaning, more or less you can't hear it or see it. Yeah.
Including within your own mind.
Well, yeah, your ego, your separate ego mind, you know, it's things. So when you've had strong spiritual experiences, you recognize this kind of like a peace and a stillness and a oneness and a unity. And it's like when I'm in a strong spiritual state, if I walk down Oxford Street, it's like totally silent and there's beautiful peace. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're disconnected and you walk down Oxford Street, it's like noisy and everyone's bumping you. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So it's not the what's going on in the world, it's your spiritual state and your connection. But what blocks you being in that state is as soon as your ego gives everything makes it very important, then you become disconnected.
Can you finish your connection with what? With the high energy, or what
Well,
do you mean by connection?
Well, the connection is absence of ego, in the state of beingness. So that's an experience when you're not hooked into any thoughts. Then you're in a timeless timeless beingness or presence, which is not related to any form of thought or duality or separation. There is actually no me, you see. See, there's no me that can be in fear. There's nothing there. Because you're beyond time, you're beyond space, you're beyond form, you're beyond thought. You need to have an identity. You need to have a me to be afraid. Yes? Only the me can be afraid. Only something limited can be afraid.
But you have to hold that me in the middle of Oxford Street, crossing the roads,
Well,
the cars who can hit you. Or
the beingness is the absence of the limited me.
but you can do that in a countryside, perhaps, in the middle of a crowd.
Oh, you can do it.
Cars,
But you can
and
do
you
that.
have to hold in your body because you have to protect of not having an accident, no?
Oh, that's a
some
good
point.
question.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yes, it's,
Well-
you have to hold to your safety, and safety is also body, no?
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, these are levels of faith, and yes, you're quite right. In the early stages of being in the beingness, you could get run over.
Of course.
But later on, the beingness does become mature. So something automatically is aware of streets, and you can still maintain the beingness.
Because
So like,
even animals, they protect themselves. They have, yes, they know how to protect themselves. But they see a car, they run. They are having thoughts, but they know how to survive.
well, yeah. I mean, you see, you can be in the early days of the beingness, you can be clumsy. That's true. Later on, the beingness gets more mature, so it can function in the world. So in the beingness, talking can happen, but there's nobody there. In the beingness, walking can happen, but there's nobody there who's walking. Are you with me? Everyone has had things. When you lose your interest, even for normal people, if you lose your interest in something, it disappears. Even people who live, like I live outside the Piccadilly line. In the early days, I could hear the tube going past, but after a while, I can't hear anything. When people would come round, they'd say, "How can you live here?" And I go, "I can't hear anything." So that's just a function of phenomena of consciousness. When consciousness gives no interest to a phenomena, it's not there. So if you give no interest to all the noises in Oxford Street, there's silent, pure peace. Yes? There is no noise there unless there's an I that's being interested in the noise.
But you have to be aware of your surroundings to protect of
That's
an accident.
There are levels of yes and no. It depends what context, but I would say that
Because if you are just in stillness and you are crossing the roads,
you could get run over. But you see, that can happen. I did say that's in the early days. You are clumsy. You could get run over. I think later on the maturity arises, so you can speak and talk. Eventually, you can cross the roads, but there's no one there to be afraid of being run over. It's God's will.
You just trust in God's will, or that the driver stop while you are crossing the road.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to do spiritual work. You see,
in the middle of Oxford Street, it's like it's a hard place to do it. It's in Oxford Street.
Of course.
People talk about the hardest place to do it.
Absolutely, that's what I will find difficult to be in a stillness.
Well, you
enlightenment in the middle of the crowd.
I think lots of people who've been in high spiritual states after retreats often go walking around streets. And,
I just see sometimes the Hare Krishna singing up for a street because they walk around in the afternoon.
I mean, to be fair, yes. I mean, I have noticed in the beginning when you're doing the observer that clumsiness can happen. That's true. Later on, though, it becomes more mature. But everything is a test of faith. You know, I mean, there's no guarantees with faith. You know, like if I hand it over, if I stay in the present moment, will I have dinner today? It's faith, isn't it? Otherwise, you're never going to let go, because I have to be in fear and control everything to make sure I get my dinner at night time. So these are different tests of faith, and you don't have to. You can always hold on to your existing state of mind, and nobody forces you to. But often you experience, the more you let go, you get more trust that you can still let go even more. Something often gives you things that it's worthwhile. When you let go of a little, life gets better. So why not try the next bit, and then the next bit? Obviously, if you're at the beginning stages, you practice in easy periods. Practice being in the beingness in the park, you see. And then if you survive the park, then you can not get run over by the infants and everything. Then you can run away from
squirrels or something.
Then later on, you know, when you have enough confidence for being in a park, you might try walking around the park, you see, and then later on try Oxford Street. Okay, good. And please interrupt me. Do interrupt me with questions, or if anything's unclear or anything. Thank you.
It's okay. I'm just going to give you the colour.
I sometimes have like chopped heads and stuff like that, so it's not useful. Thank you. And please do ask any questions while I'm going through it. If anything's not you know, if you want to expand on some points, so just ask questions. But yeah, in terms of feelings coming up and not feeling happy and disconnection, essentially, just I want to go through my story a little bit and why I come to this group, why I started this group, and also talk about my addictions as well. So 15 years ago, I was working in the stock market. I had food addiction, I had workaholism, I had all kinds of addictions going on. And suddenly I had kidney failure, and I was admitted to the Royal Free Hospital. I'd lost, I see it today as a kind of like a spiritual, like this sudden, like sort of the universe or God sort of saying, you know, you've gone too far downhill now, you've got to have something dramatic happen to wake up. Because I was going totally in the wrong, becoming dishonest, just using food and addictions and just going nuts really. So I suddenly had kidney failure in the Royal Free Hospital, and it was like I was facing death. The doctors weren't sure exactly what to do, what had caused such an aggressive decline in my kidney function. So, about 70% in about 24 hours. That's more or less unheard of, to have such a rapid decline. So I was facing death, and then I had a spiritual experience in the hospital bed, and it was like a heavenly, timeless spiritual experience. kind of a beatific experience. And I heard a voice say, you have to find a spiritual solution. So that suddenly, I mean, it was like, because it's a spiritual experience, it's difficult to describe. When you have a spiritual experience, it's like something amazingly shifts. Like you have, it's like your hope. There's got to be like a spiritual solution for like facing death and insane addictions. So I went through to all of these bizarre spiritual groups. In London, I was going everywhere, anything and everything, Buddhism, churches, weird Indian gurus, all of the things that you can find in London. There's so many other things to do. There had to be like, because it, you know, and I kind of sometimes joke, you know, it didn't tell me where to find the spiritual solution, so it didn't sort of finish that. Anyway, I came to, after a couple of years, I was exploring so many groups in London. I had a mentor, a German man named Hans, and thank you, Dimitri, a German man named Hans, and he said to me, he said to me, okay, one day he said to me, he gave me a DVD. He said, watch this DVD. And I put it in the DVD player, and this man started to speak, and I had this kind of bliss started to happen as the man started to speak. And that was like my second major spiritual experience. And that man, his name was Dr David R Hawkins. And he was, amongst many things, he's a teacher of enlightenment, and he was also a sponsee of a man named Bill Wilson, who founded the 12 Steps. He was like associated with him. And he was also a Course in Miracles teacher, which is something I do. So I followed his teachings. 12 Steps is like the basics. A Course in Miracles, which is this book over there, is like the advanced, and enlightenment is like the super advanced teachings to get to that, to get the spiritual connection that would solve the huge, almost what I'd call self-destructive behaviours, anti-life behaviours. So I was just, you know, it's like Hawkins became one of my major teachers. Also, that man introduced me to a guy in Brixton called Muji. And I had a one-to-one session with him, and I had a white light spiritual experience. As he was asking me these questions, like, what am I? You know, am I my thoughts? You know, am I that which is observing my thoughts? And then he was asking me a question, and with that question I had this white light spiritual experience, the most profound experience, like infinite power, light and love beyond description. Also, what was quite interesting was, when I went to see him, I had this horrific gout attack, pain in my feet. And when I after the white light spiritual experience, like all the pain was gone. It like hadn't that much light come in, just totally evaporated all the pain. And I walked out of that room, out of that place, and everything was like in bright technicolor, and I felt in total bliss and peace.
Too many.
Thanks for coming.
Hi! Good to see you. Oh, we've got one more person.
This is
Yeah,
George.
hi.
Do you want to sit there or
It's
I'm
anywhere.
okay. You'll sit everywhere,
That's
anywhere you like.
Yeah.
Do you want to choose this
So,
tea?
Oh my god, how are you?
I had that experience, and I knew then that because of what Hawkins said, working the 12 steps, the 12 steps is basically will help, is the basics for getting rid of addiction, but then the Course in Miracles is slightly more advanced. So it's like it's taking out your needing to having a rational interface with the world, you know, the ego talking, so that it's removing that aspect at a very, very deep level. And then there's teachings like Muji, which is like totally letting go of that that interface of the ego, so that you can get into those more profound spiritual states. So through doing all of that, you know, doing the 12, I did all three things simultaneously.
need to
I joined the
relax
12.
with
When I
every
got,
time.
when I finally got
think
I got to
so.
12-step sponsor, I
I
did
can
the
try
steps,
that.
but I did the
You're
Course in
right.
Miracles at the same
It's
time,
quite nice then.
and I
Yeah.
did the Muji self-inquiry. So those three things became the thing. So you know, the addiction stopped with the 12 steps, and the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles, the thing with the Course in Miracles was that I had like extreme physical symptoms. You know, I was on a dialysis machine, and I had to use walking sticks. I had asthma inhalers. So all of that, all of that, there's certain lessons where you can cancel your beliefs in certain negative beliefs, and Hawkins had described that he ran a spiritual group in America, and people had AIDS, cancer, myasthenia gravis, and as they were doing the Course in Miracles, all of those illnesses left them, like cancer, you know, cancer left them, AIDS, and I had all kidney failure and everything. So I did the Course in Miracles, and all of those have gone now through miracles, you see. So it has even more intrinsic power than the 12 steps. The 12 steps is great for addiction, but even more power comes with the Course in Miracles. And self-inquiry as well is also very, very powerful.
I mean, were you close?
So those were the things that I did. Now, so what is the problem? Why? What is this huge sort of spiritual malaise, or this feeling not being able to be sort of present? And for me, the core of that disconnects me from from the truth or the life, is that it's the ego. So what are the components of the ego that I need to release to suddenly start to be in, to start to feel really, really present? So that for me, so what is the components of the ego? The components of the ego are suppressed feelings for me, and also all the belief systems I'm holding in mind. So literally, and Hawkins did some research on this, in the deep levels of disconnection from the source, it's like you're going to have like guilt, shame, fear, sadness, all kinds of negative emotions and belief systems as well. So now there's two things I'd say. One is feeling feelings. Yeah. Whenever you have the way to, one of the two things I'd say, apart from the Course in Miracles, is how to feel your feelings when they come up. And Hawkins described one of the things, and when you master this, even though life can at times give an overwhelm of feelings, and you can't get quick relief through doing it, but still it's important to, one of the tools is, with feelings, whenever they come up, whether it be trauma, whether it be physical symptoms, whether it be sadness, whatever the feeling is, to not label, not make a story around the feeling. And the natural tendency for nearly every human being is not to want the feeling to be there. And so what you're doing is you're mentally trying to fight or have the feeling not be there. It's like, oh, I wish this feeling wasn't here, or what can I do? Can I eat some food? Can I have some alcohol? Can I put the TV on? Can I ring somebody? Is to try and escape from the feeling. And one of the things, it's just one of the tools you can use, is to develop the reverse attitude. Whenever unpleasant feelings are coming up, it's just to like welcome the feelings and not label. It's like having this kind of yes attitude. And that is one of the best, if you can use that with any time feelings are coming up, that is one of the best, a very, very powerful tool. It does take time, because you're reversing the general attitude of when an unpleasant feeling is here, of mentally not wanting it to be there. And I've used it with gout, I've used it with surgery pain, I've used it with panic attacks, I've used it with food addiction, I've used it with all kinds of things. And and it really does work. It really, really is helpful. Sometimes when you're starting off, I mean, there can be a huge backlog of feelings, so you don't get relief very, very quickly. So that's one thing. And the other one is letting go beliefs, cancelling beliefs. You know, what is happening? You know, you could say all the negativity that's occurring in mind is just because of negative belief systems, negative thoughts that I'm holding. So those are the two components to really, for me, are fundamental to getting well. Okay, this is probably someone new. Put this off.